Look at your wrist right now. If you're wearing a watch, don't adjust it. Don't hide it. Just notice it. That watch you chose this morning, the one you wear every day or save for special occasions, it's not just an accessory. It's a confession. It's revealing what you're trying to prove to the world, what you're trying to prove to yourself, and what you're terrified people will discover if you don't have it on. Women's watches are different from men's, because for women, a watch is never just about telling time. It's about telling a story, about who you want to be seen as, about what you've achieved or what you're pretending you've achieved, about whether you're successful enough, feminine enough, independent enough, put together enough. And today I'm going to decode exactly what your watch choice reveals about the woman you are and the woman you're afraid you're not. Before we dive in, if you want psychology content specifically for women that goes beyond surface-level style advice and actually explores why we make the choices we make, hit that like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me what type of watch you wear. No judgment, just honesty. Because this video is about awareness, not shame. Let's get into it. Here's how this works. I'm going to walk through 10 different types of watches that women wear. As I describe each one, pay attention to which one makes you feel seen, which one makes you defensive, which one makes you think, how does she know that? That reaction is your subconscious recognizing itself. Your watch isn't random. It's strategic, even if you don't realize it. So look at your wrist. What are you wearing? And more importantly, what is it saying about you? If you wear a luxury diamond watch, a Rolex, a Cartier, something that costs thousands or tens of thousands of dollars, your hidden need is proving you've made it on your own terms. You're not wearing that watch because you need to know what time it is. You're wearing it because you need people to know you can afford it, that you're successful, that you're independent, that you didn't need a man to buy it for you. That watch on your wrist is a statement that says, I did this myself. But let's dig deeper. Why do you need to make that statement? Because somewhere along the way, someone made you feel like you couldn't. Maybe you grew up watching your mother depend on your father for everything. Maybe you watched her ask for money for basic things, and you swore you'd never be in that position. Maybe you grew up poor and people treated you like you'd never amount to anything. Maybe you were underestimated your entire life because you're a woman, and now that expensive watch is proof. Proof that they were wrong. Proof that you're powerful. Proof that you belong in rooms where people wear watches like that. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The more expensive the watch, the more fragile your sense of security. Because if your worth is tied to what's on your wrist, what happens when you're not wearing it? What happens in moments when you can't display your success? Who are you then? That luxury watch has become your armor, your shield against being seen as less than, against being dismissed the way you were dismissed before, against being underestimated the way women are always underestimated. And here's what you're not admitting. You check to see if people notice it. You angle your wrist just right during meetings. You feel a rush when someone compliments it. And you feel a drop of panic when you're around women wearing more expensive watches than yours. Because if she has a better watch, does that mean she's more successful? Does that mean you're falling behind? The watch that was supposed to make you feel secure is actually making you more anxious, because there's always a more expensive watch, always someone more successful, and no amount of diamonds on your wrist will ever be enough to silence the voice that tells you you're not enough. If you wear designer fashion watches like Michael Kors, Guess, Coach, Fossil, or other mid-range brands, your hidden need is proving you're put together without admitting you care that much. You want people to know you have style, that you're successful enough to afford nice things, but not so obsessed with status that you spent your rent money on a watch. You want to look expensive without actually being expensive, and that's a very specific type of performance. These watches are strategic. They're recognizable enough that people know they're not cheap, but not so expensive that you look like you're trying too hard. It's the perfect middle ground, the safe choice, the choice that says I'm doing well, but I'm still relatable. I care about style, but I'm not materialistic. I have money, but I'm not showing off. And that balancing act is exhausting because you're constantly calibrating. Is this too much? Is this not enough? Am I trying too hard? Am I not trying hard enough? Here's what this watch really reveals. You're performing success on a budget, and there's shame wrapped up in that. Shame that you can't afford the luxury watch. Shame that you care about brands at all. Shame that you're using a watch to prove something instead of just being confident in who you are without it. You bought that watch because you wanted people to see you a certain way. But deep down you know it's not the real thing. It's the accessible version, the almost version, the good enough version. And every time you see a woman with a real luxury watch, you feel it, that little drop, that reminder that you're not quite there yet, that you're still in the middle, not at the bottom anymore, but not at the top either. And that watch on your wrist is proof of both. Proof that you've come far enough to afford something nice, but also proof that you haven't made it far enough to stop caring about looking like you've made it. If you wear a delicate, dainty watch with a thin band and a small face, your hidden need is proving you're feminine, elegant, and non-threatening. You chose that watch because it's pretty, because it's subtle, because it doesn't demand attention. And all of those things are true, but they're also strategic. You're performing a very specific type of femininity, the kind that doesn't take up too much space, the kind that's acceptable, the kind that doesn't make people uncomfortable. This watch choice usually starts young. Maybe you learned that being loud or bold or taking up space was unladylike. Maybe you were told that subtlety is more elegant, that real class doesn't announce itself, that women should be seen and not heard. Or maybe you just absorb it from the world around you, from magazines, from mothers, from a constant message that women should be small, pretty, and unobtrusive. And so you chose a watch that fits that image, a watch that whispers instead of shouts, a watch that ornaments your wrist without dominating it. But here's what you're not saying. You're afraid of being too much, afraid that if you wore something bold or statement-making, people would judge you, call you attention-seeking, call you try-hard, call you desperate. So you play it safe with delicate, with dainty, with feminine in the way that's always been deemed acceptable. But safe isn't the same as authentic. And playing small isn't the same as being elegant. That tiny watch on your wrist is a metaphor for how you move through the world. Carefully, quietly, making sure you don't take up too much space. Making sure you don't threaten anyone with your presence. Making sure you're palatable. And while there's nothing wrong with delicate watches or delicate things, there's something worth examining in why you feel like you have to be delicate. Why boldness feels dangerous. Why taking up space feels wrong. Because that dainty watch isn't just about style. It's about survival. It's about learning that the world is kinder to women who make themselves smaller. If you wear a men's style or oversized watch, your hidden need is proving you're capable, serious, and not like other girls. You specifically chose a watch that's too big for your wrist. That looks masculine. That makes a statement. And that statement is, I'm not here to be cute. I'm here to be taken seriously. I'm here to be respected the way men are respected. And if I have to wear a man's watch to get that respect, fine. This choice is a rebellion against femininity, against being underestimated, against being dismissed because you're a woman. You wear that oversized watch because you've learned that feminine things aren't taken seriously in certain spaces. That if you want to be respected in your career, in your industry, in rooms dominated by men, you have to signal that you're one of them, that you're not distracted by pretty things, that you're not soft, that you're tough, capable, serious. But here's what that watch is really revealing. You're exhausted from fighting to be taken seriously. You're tired of being underestimated because of your gender. And so you start performing masculinity because masculine is the only thing that seems to earn respect. That oversized watch is your uniform, your way of signaling that you belong in spaces where women are often excluded or dismissed. It's your armor in a world that still treats femininity like a weakness. But there's a cost to that armor. You've rejected parts of yourself to fit in. You've decided that feminine equals weak, that delicate equals incompetent, that pretty equals frivolous. And in trying to prove you're not like other girls, you absorb the exact misogyny you're fighting against. Because the problem isn't femininity. The problem is a world that doesn't respect it. And that oversized watch on your wrist is you trying to solve that problem by becoming less feminine instead of demanding that femininity be respected. If you wear a smartwatch, an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, or any fitness tracking watch, your hidden need is proving you're optimized, in control, and doing enough. You're not wearing that watch for style. You're wearing it for data, for accountability, for the constant feedback loop that tells you whether you're succeeding or failing at being a healthy, productive, valuable human being. And let's be honest, most of the time it tells you you're failing. Smartwatch women are anxious achievers. You need to quantify everything because feelings aren't trustworthy, but numbers are. Steps, calories, heart rate, sleep score, stand hours. You've turned your body into a project, your health into a measurement, your worth into a series of metrics that you're constantly trying to hit. And when you don't hit them, you feel like you failed. Not just at health, at being a good person, at being disciplined, at being enough. But here's what that smartwatch is really revealing. You don't trust yourself to know what your body needs. You need the watch to tell you if you've moved enough, slept enough, done enough. You've outsourced your intuition to an algorithm. And every notification is a judgment. Every reminder to stand is a little voice saying you're not doing enough. Every missed goal is proof that you're lazy, undisciplined, failing. This usually comes from somewhere specific. Maybe you grew up in a house where productivity was the only thing that mattered, where rest was laziness, where your value was directly tied to how much you accomplished. Or maybe you absorbed it from diet culture, from fitness culture, from the constant message that women's bodies are projects that need to be optimized, controlled, fixed. And now that smartwatch is the tool you use to control yourself, to discipline yourself, to make sure you're doing enough to deserve rest, food, existence. But here's the truth that smartwatch will never tell you. You are enough without the data. Your body is not a problem that needs to be solved with metrics. And optimizing every moment of your life is not the same as living it. That watch is making you a slave to productivity. And no matter how many goals you hit, it will never be enough because the goalposts keep moving. The standards keep rising. And you keep chasing a version of enough that doesn't exist. If you wear a vintage or inherited watch, something that belonged to your grandmother, your mother, or that you found in a thrift store, your hidden need is proving you value meaning over materialism. You specifically chose a watch with history, with story, with soul, and that's beautiful. But it's also strategic. You want people to know you're not shallow, that you care about legacy and memory and things that last, that you're different from women who just buy whatever's trendy. But let's dig into why you need to prove that. Why is it so important that people see you as deep, as connected to something bigger than yourself? Usually it's because you feel disconnected from your family, from your history, from yourself. And that vintage watch is your attempt to borrow meaning, to wear someone else's story because you're not sure your own story is interesting enough, important enough, valuable enough. There's also a performance of humility here. Vintage watch women often pride themselves on not caring about trends, on not buying into consumerism, on being above the shallow materialism of women who buy new things. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Choosing vintage is still choosing based on what it says about you. You're still performing an identity. It's just a different one. You're not less materialistic. You're just materialistic about different things, about authenticity, about uniqueness, about not being like everyone else. And sometimes holding on to the past so tightly is just another way of avoiding the present. That vintage watch keeps you connected to a time that felt safer, to people who are gone, to a version of the world that doesn't exist anymore. And while there's beauty in honoring history, there's also danger in living there, because you can't build a future if you're always looking backward. And that watch on your wrist is keeping you anchored to a past you can't change instead of a present you could. If you were a minimalist or a simple watch, something with a clean face, neutral colors, maybe a leather band, something that looks effortlessly understated, your hidden need is proving you're above the chaos, above the noise, above the desperate need for attention that you see in other women. You chose that minimalist watch because it's sophisticated, because it's timeless, because it doesn't scream for attention. And all of that is code for I'm better than people who need to be flashy. Minimalism is a specific type of flex. It says I'm so secure in myself that I don't need anything loud. I'm so confident that I can wear something simple and still be noticed. It's the aesthetic of people who have already made it and no longer need to prove it. Except you do still need to prove it, because you chose that minimalist watch very carefully. You probably spent a long time finding the right one. The one that looks effortless but expensive, simple but sophisticated, understated but still noticeable enough that people recognize you have taste. Here's what minimalism often hides: a fear of being perceived as too much, a fear of expressing your full personality, because full personality is messy and loud and colorful and complicated. Minimalism feels safe, controllable, clean. It's the visual equivalent of keeping your emotions in check, of staying composed, of never letting anyone see you sweat or struggle or want things desperately. That minimalist watch is your way of staying in control, of presenting a version of yourself that's palatable, inoffensive, put together. But behind that clean aesthetic is usually chaos you're working very hard to hide: anxiety, overwhelm, a sense that if you let one thing get messy, everything will fall apart. So you control what you can control: your watch, your outfit, your home, your image, and you call it minimalism. But it's really just another form of armor, another way of making sure no one sees the parts of you that feel too complicated to explain. If you wear colorful or playful watches, something with patterns, bright colors, fun designs, maybe cartoon characters or unusual shapes, your hidden need is proving you're fun, young, and not boring. You chose that watch because it makes you happy, because it's expressive, because it's different, and also because you're terrified of being seen as basic, boring, or conventional. That bright watch is your rebellion against being ordinary. But let's look at what's underneath that playfulness. Often it's a fear of being invisible, a fear that if you don't stand out, you'll disappear. So you make choices that force people to notice you. That watch isn't just fun. It's a conversation starter. It's an attention grabber. It's your way of making sure you're seen in a world where women are often overlooked. There's also sometimes an element of trying to stay young. That playful watch is your way of signaling that you're not one of those serious, boring adults who stopped having fun. You're still youthful, still spontaneous, still interesting. But the more you try to prove you're not boring, the more it reveals that you're afraid you actually are. That underneath the colorful watch and the playful aesthetic, you're just as ordinary as everyone else. And that terrifies you. Colorful watch women also tend to struggle with being taken seriously. You know that watch makes some people dismiss you as frivolous, as unserious, as childish. And part of you doesn't care because you decided that being authentic is more important than being respected. But another part of you does care, deeply, and you wish you could be both. Colorful and respected, playful and taken seriously. But the world makes you choose. And that watch is your choice. If you own multiple watches and change them based on the occasion, outfit, or mood, your hidden need is proving you're adaptable and have all your bases covered. You're not a one-watch woman, because you're not a one-dimensional woman. You have options. You have variety. You can be different things for different situations. And that flexibility is both a strength and a confession. Multiple watch women are often people pleasers with identity issues. You change yourself based on context. The dainty watch for feminine occasions, the professional watch for work, the fun watch for weekends, the luxury watch for important events. And each watch is a costume, a different version of you that you put on depending on who's watching. The problem is, with all these versions, you've lost track of which one is real. Or, if any of them are, this pattern usually develops from learning that you need to be different things for different people to be accepted, that your authentic self isn't quite right for any situation. So you've learned to adapt, to morph, to read the room and adjust accordingly. And those multiple watches are evidence of that shape-shifting. Each one is a tool you use to fit in, to be appropriate, to be accepted. But the cost of all that adaptability is that you've lost your center. You become so good at being what other people need that you don't know what you need anymore. That collection of watches on your dresser is really a collection of identities. And the exhausting part is choosing which one to wear each day, which version of yourself is required today. Who do you need to be liked, accepted, respected? And underneath all those watches is a woman who just wants to be herself without having to calculate which self is appropriate. If you don't wear a watch at all and just use your phone to check the time, your hidden need is proving you're too free, too evolved, too modern to be tied to something as traditional as a watch. You say you don't need one because you have your phone. But what you're really saying is, I don't want to be tied to anything. Not time, not tradition, not expectations, not commitments that come with symbolism. No-watch women are usually commitment-phobic in ways that extend beyond watches. You don't like feeling anchored. You don't like things that symbolize permanence. You don't like accessories that require daily decisions. Because watches, unlike jewelry you can forget about, are something you consciously put on every day. It's a daily commitment. A daily choice to be someone who wears a watch. And you'd rather not make that choice. There's also often a rejection of traditional femininity here. Watches, especially women's watches, are tied to ideas about femininity, elegance, being put together. And you've rejected that whole game. You don't want to perform femininity in the ways women are expected to. You don't want to decorate yourself for other people's consumption. You want to just exist without the constant pressure to be aesthetically pleasing or appropriately feminine. But here's what not wearing a watch also reveals. A fear of being seen as trying too hard. A fear of caring about things that might not matter. A fear of being judged for the choices you make. So you opt out. You choose nothing because nothing can't be judged. But choosing nothing is still a choice. And it's a choice that keeps you invisible. Not just without a watch. Without markers of identity that might make you vulnerable to judgment. You're so afraid of being seen incorrectly that you decided not to be seen at all. So which type of watch wearer are you? Or which type of non-watch wearer are you? And more importantly, does a hidden need match what you're actually feeling? Because here's the truth. The watch you wear or don't wear isn't the problem. The problem is when that watch becomes a stand-in for confidence you don't have. For worth you don't feel. For identity you're still trying to figure out. Your watch can be beautiful. It can be meaningful. It can be fun. But it can't be proof of your value. It can't be evidence that you're enough. It can't replace the work of actually believing in yourself without needing symbols on your wrist to prove it. Drop a comment right now telling me which watch type you are. And if you're brave enough, tell me if the description hit close to home. Because this isn't about making you feel bad about your watch. It's about making you aware of what you're using that watch to say, what you're using it to prove, what you're using it to hide. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But you also can't change it until you see it. So let's be honest. Let's be real. Let's stop pretending our accessories are just accessories. Because for women, nothing we wear is ever just about the thing itself. It's always about what it says, what it signals, what it protects us from, or connects us to. If this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means something in it was true. Subscribe for more psychology content, specifically for women. Content that goes beyond style tips and actually explores why we make the choices we make. Because understanding yourself isn't about feeling good all the time. It's about seeing clearly. And sometimes seeing clearly means recognizing that the watch on your wrist is telling a story you didn't know you were broadcasting. The question is, now that you know, what are you to do about it?